my dear students. How are you? It's time for another grammar point with me, teacher Hiba. In these videos, we dive into the details of English grammar to see how it works. This is an explanation for our lesson in which you will learn how to make comparisons with as. As I told you before, we will study this lesson in details. So let's get started with learning how to make comparisons using as adjective as. You will learn how to compare qualities. When comparing qualities, we will use as, adjective, as. Also, with this form, it's possible to make comparisons of equality using a positive sentence or inequality using a negative sentence. So, the first thing we'll look at is the grammar and meaning. Then we'll review the most common errors that students make when trying to use the form. Now, we're gonna be comparing two things, and I've got an example sentence for you. Today is as cold as yesterday. If we break apart this sentence, we can see our subject is today. Our verb is as part of be verb. So the different verb forms of be verb are am is are in the present, was were in the past, and will be in the future. And then of course we have our object, yesterday. But what about this middle section here, as cold as? Well, if we break that apart further, we could see we have the word as, then we have something in the middle, and then we have as again after it. So, what's that word called? What part of a speech is that? Well, it's an adjective. So, looking at our example sentence again, we have today is as cold as yesterday. So again, we have our subject, our verb to be, our as adjective as combination, and then we have the complement of the sentence. This can be known as a positive statement. In this sentence, it's like we're saying two things are equal. Today is as cold as yesterday. It means that they are the same temperature. So it's like saying 1 equals 1. Now take a look at this sentence. Texas is not as cold Minnesota. Here I've got my subject, my be verb, but I've added the word not into my as adjective as phrase. And then of course I end with my object Minnesota. Here I'm making a negative statement and I'm saying that two things are not equal. Texas is not as cold as Minnesota, so it's kind of like in math, if I use the does not equal sign, 1 does not equal 2. I'm saying that these things are not the same. Now, if I take a look at these two types of comparisons, I've got my positive comparison using as, adjective as, and such as in my example, today as cold as yesterday. I also have my negative comparison using not as, adjective as, such as in my example, Texas is not as cold as Minnesota. Let's take a look at these three people and compare them using this grammar. So I've got Caleb and Jenny, who are both 25 years old. I've got Nick, who is 16 years old. If I compare Caleb and Jenny, they are the same age, and that's kind of like our positive sentence. Now, if I compare Jenny and Nick, they are different ages, so that's like our negative statement. So, back to Caleb and Jenny, I could make this sentence, Caleb is as old as Jenny because they are both 25 years old, and 25 equal 25. Now, if I switch Jenny and Caleb's name in this sentence, I said Jenny is as old as Caleb. Now, both of these sentences are true because no matter which person that you use at first. Let's take a look at Jenny and Nick. If I compare Jenny and Nick, I could say Nick is not as old as Jenny because 16 does not equal 25. How? Sorry, now if I switch my subject in my object and I make this sentence, Jenny is not as old as Nick, you could see 25 does not equal 16 because whereas our first sentence is true, our second sentence is false. It's not correct because in the first sentence, we are saying Nick is younger than Jenny, not as old as is the same as saying younger than. But in my second sentence, I'll be saying Jenny is younger than Nick, and that is incorrect because she's not younger than him. She's actually older by 9 years, so we have to be careful. When we compare two things with the positive as it doesn't matter which noun is the subject and which is the object. But when we compare with the negative, not as, we must always put the lesser noun as the subject and the greater noun as the object. So here's our chart again, and you can see on the side where it has negative comparison, saying Texas is not as cold as Minnesota because Texas is less cold, and this not equal sign actually kind of works more like a less than sign in mathematics. Now let's practice and analyze the grammatical patterns. Oh, Emily, would you be so kind as to give us an example? My dad is as strong as a Superman. Thanks, Emily. We have the subject plus the verb, then as adjective as followed by the object. Once more, Emily's dad is the subject, is the verb, and Superman is the object. In this sentence, Emily is saying that her dad and Superman are equal in strength. Because they are equal, the truth of this sentence is not affected if we switch the order, so you could say Superman is as strong as Emily's dad, but the sense of this sentence would be a little bit different. Look at comparison of inequality. Remember, if you want to say that two things are not equal, you must use a negative sentence. The pattern is subject plus verb follows with not, and then we can add as adjective as, and at the end we should put the complement of the sentence or the object. Now, if I ask Emily, how tall are you? Emily, I'm 126 centimeters tall. And Jack, how tall are you? I'm 100 centimeters tall. So Emily is taller than Jack. Jack isn't as tall as Emily. Common errors. The most common mistake students make is mixing er than with as. I've heard students saying things like, Kevin is as stupider as Mark. Here, the er form of the adjective is being used between as. Don't do this, it's wrong. Check out this one. Greg is less happy as Tony. This is also wrong, my students. You're using less in place of the first as. Here's another example. Cliff is not as fat than Norm. Nice try, but also wrong, my students. Dan is being used in place of the second as. So let's be a warning to you, never mix er than or less more than with as. And thank you.